The Texas Chainsaw Massacre from 1974 is one of the best horror films of all time. Over the years, the movie has had some really interesting deleted scenes and outtakes that have been released. And just last year, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre documentary Chain Reactions released on Blu-ray and included 8 different cuts of the film. So today we're going to take a look at those released deleted scenes and outtakes, talk about their implications and what they might reveal, and then we'll talk about those 8 different cuts out there. Hope you got your barbecue ready. Let's get into it. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre was a movie I saw at probably too young of an age. I was like 10. During the winter of 7th grade, a friend of mine and myself shoveled a bunch of driveways over this winter break. We had his sister take us to Best Buy, and there is where I purchased the Pioneer release, this one that I hold in my hand, this very copy. It's funny, I had the physical media bug then, and I still do now. Now, of course, these days we know that this is not necessarily a superior release or anything, but still cool to have. I don't think I'm as precious with the franchise as other people are, though. A few of the movies I really like and connect with on that level, and some of them not so much. The deleted scenes and outtakes that have been slowly revealed over time show us a lot of different stuff. And if you haven't seen or heard of this before, buckle up. For most of this footage, the audio was lost, and all we have is images. The first scene is sort of a deleted and extended version that's kind of an outtake that takes place when they're driving past the slaughterhouse, and Franklin starts going off, being his, usual annoying self.
That's the old slaughterhouse. That's where Grandpa used to sell his cattle. Look at that.
Obviously, some of this dialogue ended up in the final cut, but this is interesting to see this because you get to see the work that went into making this movie. That's always fun for me. There's also a bunch of extra gnarly footage of corpses, some of the different effects, and a few different alternate takes of some of the said gnarly shots in the film, including some stuff I'm not even going to put on screen. Not because it looks too real, but because it actually is real. They used animal corpses for the movie. And nah, we ain't doing that. The opening shot of the film famously features a real corpse of an armadillo. The crew found it as roadkill and taxidermied it to use it on set. What you might not know is that the film also used the bodies of cats and dogs as well, and the opening of the film was shot at one point using the body of a dog. I've seen the footage. It's in the extras and the outtakes and stuff. You don't want to see this, trust me. And ultimately, I think it just takes away from the film, and Tobe Hooper knew this. It's just too distracting. Obviously, they didn't kill the dogs for this. They acquired it from a city pound, but that still makes the morality of it a little questionable. I'm choosing to accept it in this case because, again, the filmmakers didn't hurt the animals. I mean, this movie made Tobe Hooper become a vegetarian while he was making it. This isn't Cannibal Holocaust, which is a movie I'll never watch or support in any form or fashion. But yes, I do have some icky feelings about Texas Chainsaw using animal corpses this way. I personally would quit any film if they were doing that. There's another scene where Pam and Kirk discover an abandoned campsite. They find a tent and a pocket watch that's been nailed to a tree. There's some different shots and angles here, but as I mentioned before, we're missing the audio for this, so who knows what they're saying here. This just hints at previous victims for the Sawyer family. But let's face it, this doesn't add much outside of unsettling imagery, and maybe if the music was right, suspense. There's more alternate takes of the hammer kill. You can kind of see how it was constructed and filmed. Some of this doesn't really add anything to the story here, obviously. But this is footage that for years people didn't know was out there somewhere. And if you're anything like me, you like to see this stuff. You've got a scene with Leatherface having a tantrum outside the gas station. This is when Sally is hiding in there. Leatherface is kind of dancing around with his chainsaw, kind of just raging out. Does he have like headphones on there? What's he listening to? Later, Tobe Hooper said this was removed to keep up the suspense that the film had been building, as well as delay revealing the connection between the Sawyers, the gas station, and Leatherface. I mean, I get that. There's already plenty of Leatherface's shenanigans in the movie. And it's hard to say I wish any of this was left in the movie. Besides this next one of the most talked about deleted scenes, the makeup scene. They shot this in multiple angles so you get to see it with a few different takes, but you see Leatherface applying makeup to his mask, occasionally checking how it looks in a hand mirror. Honestly, this is one I would have tried my best to keep in if I was the director. But I wasn't. Maybe not everyone watching this will feel the same way as me, and that's okay. But man, this is peak Leatherface creep behavior, and I'm here for it. It shows a level of innocence in this character's brain that just makes the character feel even more demented, sick, and depraved. The scene featuring Sally's infamous leap from the window included some more interesting shots that were removed to keep the pacing strong and suspenseful, but those shots featured the Sawyers essentially reacting to her jumping out of the window. You can even see a shot of the stunt person in a wig on the roof. I haven't seen it cut both ways, so I can't really argue one way or the other, but I can say I've never watched that scene and thought it needed to be any different. After the hitchhiker is run over, there was some footage shot of a close-up of his face, bloodied up a bit with some dripping going on. I read that this was deemed too graphic, but that just goes to show you how much times have changed in the last 50 years. Just look at the success of Terrifier 3, a movie that wouldn't even exist without Texas Chainsaw. There's some brief shots of these three guys, the guy in the white being John Dugan, who played Grandpa Sawyer in the film. These guys were going to take Sally to her grandfather's grave. It's not very consequential, but it's interesting to see. Besides just this, there's so much alternate, almost B-roll style footage and setup shots and alternate takes and outtakes in here. If you're a big fan, I highly suggest checking some of this stuff out, giving it all a full watch. So what's with the 8 different cuts of the movie? Well, let's sort it out. There's the theatrical cut we all know, of course, but as I mentioned before, the Chain Reaction documentary Blu-ray included 8 more cuts. The only thing to consider is that none of the footage we mentioned before this, or any other new footage for that matter, has been added to these versions. If anything, stuff's just been removed. So, keeping that in mind, why do these matter at all? The first one's the 16mm overscan print. This version is notable for showing a little more picture, and even the film itself is visible, hence the overscan title. Other than that, it's basically the same film. It's a little bit wider, and then that's the big change on this version. Then you have the 16mm barbecue edition print. This one's about 84 minutes. This version was reportedly used for early screenings of the film. All of these look slightly different in color and framing, so keep that in mind as well. Next is the 35mm grindhouse print, which runs about 80 minutes. This one has a lot of stuff that was changed from what I can tell for just plain old censorship reasons, or maybe the grindhouse effect where people would steal the best frames of the movie as the prints were circulating. But it's definitely a degraded version of the film. Then there's a couple VHS scans as well. There's the 1980 Australian VHS. This is once again the full movie, but it's just a scan of the Australian VHS from what I can tell. And if I'm being real, I don't know if I'd count this as its own separate cut. I mean, I suppose it's a different version, but still. Another VHS scan comes from the 1981 Wizard Video VHS. Similar to the Australian VHS, but about a minute shorter. Minimal cuts were obviously made, but again, it's really just a VHS transfer of the movie that you can watch in a modern-day TV without access to a VCR or a copy of the VHS. One of the shorter versions is the 1987 Czechoslovakian bootleg VHS. This one runs about 69 minutes. It's one of the more interesting ones on this list because it was basically Frankenstein together with any and all sources they could get their hands on to produce a cut of this movie to make available. It's kind of a historic artifact directly related to this movie, censorship, and physical media. The shortest version, however, is the 1978 Super 8 print. This one runs only 22 minutes. It's worth checking out. I've read other people say this cut makes it feel like a legit snuff film, but this version's very unsettling. It's all action with minimal setup and slow scenes. You've got one more scan of a tape, this time the 1980 Slovakian Betamax. Runs about 83 minutes, and again, it's a variation that you don't need to rush out and see if you're not into Betamax, but if you are, and you like how those scans look, give it a shot. The interesting thing about all these different versions is that none of them are really all that different. Outside of the Super 8 version and the bootleg VHS, it's a little overhyped, right? So it's up to you to decide if you want more than just access to the movie itself. I personally love special features and weird versions and scans. It's a bit of a dream, but they're still not that impressive. I do wish they released stuff like this more often for other movies, but it's probably a pretty small market. Anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Love to hear from you guys. Stay creepy.